Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're looking at 3 Kennedy half-dollar coins that many people still overlook: the 1980, 1984, and 1985 half-dollars. While most of these are only worth face value, certain mint errors proof coins and high-grade uncirculated examples can be worth much more to collectors. In this video, I'll walk you through what to look for and how much these coins are selling for right now. Let's get started. First up, the 1980 Kennedy half-dollar features the familiar portrait of President John F. Kennedy, a design first introduced in 1964 to honor the fallen president after his tragic assassination. By 1980, the coin had already been in circulation for over 15 years, and the U.S. Mint continued producing it, primarily for collectors, since demand for half-dollars in everyday commerce had dropped dramatically. The obverse design by Gilroy Roberts shows Kennedy's left-facing profile, with the word liberty arching across the top "In God We Trust" split on either side of his neck, and the date 1980 just beneath. The reverse design by Frank Casparo carries the presidential seal, an eagle with a shield on its chest, holding an olive branch in one talon and arrows in the other, surrounded by 50 stars representing the states. When it comes to minting, the 1980 Kennedy half-dollar was struck at 3 different facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia bear no mint mark, while those from Denver carry a small D just above the date on the obverse. Meanwhile, San Francisco produced proof coins identifiable by the harp details and mirror-like finish, with an S mint mark. Philadelphia minted approximately 44.1 million of these coins. Denver produced about 33.1 million, and San Francisco struck over 3.5 million proof coins. This means that while they are not considered rare, the coins still have enough variation in production to make mint mark and quality an important factor in their value. Let's talk composition. Unlike the first Kennedy half-dollars in 1960, for which were 90% silver, the 1980 version is a copper nickel-clad coin with no silver content, weighing 1134 grams and measuring 30.6 millimeters in diameter. Its reeded edge and durable metal mixture made it resistant to wear in circulation. However, because there's no silver content, most circulated 1980 halves are only worth their face value of 50 cents. That said, the real value for collectors lies in uncirculated coins, proofs, and rare varieties. High-quality coins with minimal dag marks, sharp details, and original luster can fetch far more than 50 cents on the collector's market. Now, the burning question for many collectors and casual finders alike: what is the 1980 half-dollar worth for most circulated coins? The value is simply 50 cents. Uncirculated examples, graded or higher, can sell for around $2 to $5. The real prize, however, lies in superb gem condition coins, graded or above. In this condition, the coin's luster shines beautifully with no distracting marks, making them highly desirable. Can sell for around $30 to $50, while it might command hundreds depending on the demand. Proof coins from San Francisco usually sell in the $3 to $10 range, though deep cameo examples in pristine condition can go for significantly more. Collectors also keep an eye out for error coins, minting mistakes such as off-center strikes, double dies, clipped blankets, or missing layers can transform a common 1980 half-dollar into, depending on how dramatic the error is. Similarly, a proof coin with a double die on Kennedy's profile or the reverse lettering code fetch far above its usual value. Always examine your coins carefully, as even a tiny error overlooked by others could turn a pocket find into a collectible prize. Another important aspect of value comes from coin grading services like PCGS and NGC. Submitting a coin for grading can be worth the investment if you believe you have a high-grade or rare error coin. These professional services authenticate the coin, assign it a grade on the 70-point Sheldon scale, and encapsulate it for protection. A coin graded by a reputable service carries far more credibility and market value than a raw coin sold as uncirculated. For collectors building registry sets, having a graded 1980 Kennedy half-dollar in high condition is often necessary, which drives demand for the best preserved examples. The 1980 half-dollar also carries cultural significance. By this year, most Americans were no longer using half-dollars in everyday transactions, they had become more of a collector's item than a circulating coin. As a result, rolls of 1980 halves often sat untouched in bank vaults or private collections. For modern collectors, this means that uncirculated rolls can still be found sometimes at modest premiums, providing opportunities to search for high-grade coins or varieties. The Kennedy half-dollar series itself remains one of the most popular among U.S. coin collectors, with many building complete date and mint mark sets stretching from 1964 to the present. If you're wondering whether to keep, sell, or spend a 1980 half-dollar, here's the bottom line. Circulated examples with scratches and wear are best considered spending money, unless they have an error. However, uncirculated or proof coins are worth holding on to, especially if they show strong luster or cameo contrast. And if you suspect an error or have a high-grade coin, consider sending it for professional grading. Even if the value isn't life-changing, these coins are still pieces of history and a direct link to the enduring legacy of President Kennedy. For many collectors, the sentimental and historical value outweighs the market price. In conclusion, the 1980 Kennedy half-dollar may not contain silver, but it holds a wealth of interest for collectors. With mintages across 3 U.S. facilities, a copper-nickel-clad composition, and opportunities for high-grade finds and rare varieties, this coin is more than just 50 cents. It's a story in metal, a piece of American history, and a treasure waiting to be appreciated. Whether you're a new collector starting your journey or a seasoned numismatist adding to your registry set, the 1980 half-dollar deserves a place in your collection. So next time you come across one, take a closer look. You might just be holding something worth far more than its face value. Next up, the obverse features the enduring portrait of President John F. Kennedy, sculpted by Gilroy Roberts, who was the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint in the 1960s. Kennedy's profile faces left with the word liberty encircling the top, the motto "In God We Trust" split across the neck, and the date 1984 centered at the bottom. On the reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, we see the presidential seal, a heraldic eagle with wings outstretched, holding arrows in one talon and an olive branch in the other, with a shield on its chest and a ring of 50 stars surrounding it. This design has remained iconic not just for half-dollars, but as a symbol of American coinage in the modern era. When we talk about where these coins were struck, there are 3 main minting locations for the 1984 Kennedy half-dollar. Philadelphia produced coins with no mint mark. Denver coins carry the D mint mark, and San Francisco struck proof coins with an S mint mark. The Philadelphia Mint turned out over 26 million coins. Denver minted more than 26.3 million, and San Francisco produced about 3.5 million proof coins altogether. That's more than 56 million have struck in 1980, for which makes them plentiful. But as always, condition and special characteristics play a big role in determining whether your coin is worth more than face value. By 1980, for these coins were no longer made of silver. Instead, they were composed of a copper nickel-clad mixture, a pure copper core sandwich it between 2 layers of copper-nickel alloy. They weighed 11.34 grams and measured 30.6 millimeters across, with a reeded edge. This clad composition had been standard for circulating Kennedy half-dollars since 1971. Because of this, the intrinsic metal value of a 1980 for half-dollar is worth only a fraction of $1, and so collectors must rely on rarity, condition, or errors to see premiums above 50 cents. This fact makes condition and grading even more critical when evaluating the coin's worth. So what is the 1984 Kennedy half-dollar actually worth today for circulated examples? The reality is that they're still just worth 50 cents. However, uncirculated coins can bring in modest premiums. A coin graded to might sell for around $2 to $5, while higher grade specimens, such as examples, typically range from $20 to $40 depending on demand. The real standout coins are those in gem condition, or examples can sometimes command well over $100 because they're relatively scarce in such pristine form. Proof coins from San Francisco, especially those with deep cameo contrast, often fetch between $5 and $20, though higher graded deep cameos can sell for much more. Collectors also keep a close eye out for error varieties, which can dramatically increase value. Errors from the 1980s Kennedy halves are not as common as earlier decades, but they do exist. These can include Off-center strikes, die cracks clipped, plank hits or double die, obverse and reverse varieties. A dramatic off-center strike with the date and mint mark still visible could fetch hundreds of dollars at auction. A proof coin with doubling on Kennedy's profile or on the lettering around the rim could also be extremely desirable because errors are so varied their value is determined case by case, but the general rule is the more dramatic the error, the more valuable. The grading process plays a big role in determining value, especially for coins minted in the millions like the 1980 for $half. Professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC use the Sheldon scale to assign grades from 1 to 70, with 70 being a flawless coin. A coin graded at or higher has sharp details, full luster, and minimal contact marks. Coins graded are particularly rare and can be worth exponentially more than their face value. Proof coins too are graded on the same scale but also receive designations such as cameo or deep cameo depending on the contrast between the frosted design and the mirror-like background. It's also important to consider the historical context of the 1984 $half. By this time most Americans rarely encountered $half in daily life. Banks still carried them, but they were seldom handed out as change, and vending machines generally did not accept them. Instead, the denomination had become more of a novelty and a collectible for many coin roll hunters and collectors. Today this means rolls of 1984 $half can sometimes be found in bank vaults, offering the chance to search for uncirculated coins or rare errors. In this sense, the 1980 for $half is both common in production numbers yet special in that few people outside the collector community ever see them. So should you hold on to a 1980 for Kennedy $half if you find one? The answer depends on condition and variety. If it's heavily circulated, scratched, or worn, it's safe to say its value is just 50 cents and you could spend it without regret. However, if you come across an uncirculated coin with brilliant luster or a San Francisco proof in pristine condition, then it's absolutely worth holding on to. If you suspect your coin has an error or looks particularly sharp, it may even be worth sending to a grading service. A graded gem from 1984 can add significant value to your collection, and even modestly graded coins often sell for more than face value in the collector's market. In conclusion, the 1984 Kennedy $half is a fascinating coin not because of its rarity and mintage but because of the collecting culture surrounding it. With over 56 million minted across 3 U.S. facilities, the coin itself is common, yet condition, errors, and grading make all the difference from its enduring Kennedy portrait to its role as a largely non-circulating denomination. The 1980 for $half carries both historical weight and collector interest, so next time you spot one in your change, remember it's not just a 50-cent piece, it's a part of American coinage history. And for those passionate about building complete sets, or next up, the Kennedy $half series was first introduced in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy after his tragic assassination, and the design by Gilroy Roberts on the obverse and Frank Gasparo on the reverse has remained largely unchanged ever since. On the obverse of the 1985 $half Kennedy's left-facing profile dominates the coin, framed by the word liberty across the top, the motto "In God We Trust." Split on either side of his neck, and the date 1985 centered beneath is bust. On the reverse, you'll find the presidential seal, the heraldic eagle clutching olive branches and arrows with a shield on its chest surrounded by 50 stars and the inscription United States of America and $half. It's a design that continues to symbolize both strength and remembrance. In terms of minting, the 1985 Kennedy $half was struck at only 2 facilities for circulation: Philadelphia and Denver. Philadelphia coins carry no mint mark, while Denver issues bear the D mint mark above the date. The U.S. Mint did not produce proof $half in 1985 at San Francisco, which makes this year different from surrounding years in the series. Philadelphia struck roughly 18.4 million $half, and Denver produced about 19.8 -1 for a total mintage of just under 38.3 million pieces. While that's a relatively modest number compared to earlier decades, it's still enough to make most 1985 Halves common in circulation, like all Kennedy half dollars, minted after 1971. The 1985 version is made from a copper nickel-clad composition. The core is pure copper, while the outer layers are an alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel. The coin weighs 11.34 grams, measures 30.6 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge. All earlier Kennedy halves contained silver either 90% in 1964 or 40% from 1965 to 1970. By 1985, there was no silver content at all. This means the coin's metal value is essentially just a few cents, so collectors value it primarily for its condition, rarity, and high grades or special error varieties. So let's get to the big question: what is a 1985 Kennedy half dollar worth in circulated condition? Most of these coins are worth their face value of -1 cent. However, uncirculated examples can bring in more, usually in the $2 to $5 range for coins graded. Coins graded, considered gem and circulated, are typically valued at $20 to $40. Scarcer high-grade examples like are significantly more valuable, with pieces often fetching $100 or more at auction, and examples being rare enough to sell for several $100s because no proofs were made this year. Collectors seeking pristine examples must rely entirely on circulation strikes, which makes gem condition 1985 halves especially desirable. Another factor that can increase the value of a 1985 half dollar is the presence of mint errors. While not extremely common, errors from this year do exist and are worth watching for. These could include off-center strikes, double die obverses or reverses, die cracks, clip plankets, or missing clad layers. A dramatic error, such as a 50% off-center strike with the date and mint mark still visible, can sell for hundreds of dollars. Even smaller errors like die cracks that form visible lines across Kennedy's face or the lettering can be of interest to specialists and carry premiums above regular market value. Always check your coins carefully under magnification, because error coins are often overlooked by casual collectors. Professional grading is one of the best ways to authenticate and protect high-value 1985 Kennedy half dollars. Reputable services like PCGS and NGC use the Sheldon 70-point scale to assess condition. For example, a coin graded or higher will have strong strike details, brilliant luster, and minimal bag marks, because 1985 halves were made in relatively modest quantities compared to earlier years. Coins in superb gem grades are tougher to find, and this scarcity drives up value. Collectors who assemble registry sets often compete for the finest examples, which is why top-rated coins from this year have realized impressive prices at auction. It's also worth noting the historical context of the 1985 Kennedy half dollar. By this year, the coin was rarely seen in circulation. Half dollars were still produced by the millions, but banks often ordered them only in small quantities, and the general public seldom used them in daily transactions. Instead, most halves went directly into storage, into collector hands, or sat untouched in Federal Reserve vaults. For this reason, many examples exist today in relatively nice condition, though the absolute highest grade coins remain elusive. The denomination itself was already becoming more of a collector's item than a circulating coin by the mid-1980s, which adds to its numismatic interest. So should you keep or spend a 1985 Kennedy half dollar if you find one? The answer depends on its condition. Worn circulated coins with scratches and heavy marks are best considered spending money unless they have an obvious error, but uncirculated examples, especially those with sharp detail and bright luster, are worth holding on to. If you suspect you've found a high-grade coin or a mint error, consider sending it for professional grading, even if the market value isn't life-changing. These coins hold historical and collectible appeal, and they can be excellent additions to a Kennedy half dollar set. In conclusion, the 1985 Kennedy half dollar may not be the rarest or most valuable coin in U.S. history, but it carries its own significance as part of one of America's most collected coin series, with a total mintage of just under 38.3 million struck only in Philadelphia and Denver. And with no proofs produced, the 1985 half dollar is a distinctive year for collectors. Its copper-nickel clad composition keeps its intrinsic value low, but in gem condition or with dramatic errors, it can be worth much more than face value. Whether you're building a full Kennedy set or simply want to learn the story behind the, thanks for watching.